I always liked pirates. I've always been enamored with the fantasy they had going for them, sailing the seas, being free, robbing rich people, and the camaraderie you have with your crew as you sit down at the tavern all while drinking some rum. Now before you go ahead and go, actually, I know the actual historical pirates did have a reputation of being ruthless and cruel, and it's just funny to me how we have taken them and made them into something far more romanticized, and I believe it's because we want that freedom. We want the adventure, and we want to tell rich people to piss off and give us their money, and it's that allure that they have on us after all these years, and it's why they're in our media from books to movies and video games such as Assassin's Creed. Hold on. This is the wrong game. Assassin's Creed Black Flag is a game that satisfies my fantasy of being surrounded by seamen. Released back in 2013, it's the first game in the series to take a step back in history rather than forward, going back 2 generations from Connor to his grandfather, Edward Kenway, a Welsh privateer turned pirate living in the Caribbean during the golden age of piracy. This is the first time I've played Black Flag, so prior to this it was sort of uncharted territory, haha. And after playing it, I would say that this is a average Assassin's Creed game, but a good pirate game. A sentiment I heard in the past, probably to the dismay of fans of the series, who'd go on to say that it's actually a pretty good Assassin's Creed game. But hopefully through this video I can kind of show you why I think the way I do with this game. The gameplay is what I'd come to expect from an Assassin's Creed game, which brings me to my points. What am I supposed to say about this? Oh yeah, I can't wait to parkour about with the same mechanics as the previous game with nothing new added. Oh, what's this? I could use a hook to quickly get down to the deck of the ship? Wow, I love the combat of waiting to counter an opponent or guard break them and then just beat the shit out of them. The most egregious thing about this game in my eyes is the fact that we don't have the hook blades. The best thing we've had in an Assassin's Creed game, and the reason behind this is because Darby McDevitt, lead writer of Revelations and Black Flag, wanted to avoid pirates with hook hands. And I just want to know, are we not allowed to have fun? Are there at least fun places to parkour about? Sort of. We have Havana. Havana's not a badly done city. No, wait, that doesn't sound like praise. Havana's a fun city. It's great to run around and parkour through, and if you've not played the game in a while, then you'd either have memories of this city or memories of sailing your ship, and I don't blame you if you want to block out places like Kingston or Nassau because of how bare bones they are, with very few places to properly parkour about. And honestly, I'm sure it's going to happen to me in a few months. And damn it, I don't want this just to be me reminiscing back to previous entries in the series, but each city we've been to in previous titles have had their own identity in one way or another, whether it's by architecture, design. Hell, the first Assassin's Creed game even had different colored tints for their cities, and they all felt unique in their own way. I don't dislike the Caribbean cities, but I can't bring myself to like them that much either. Also because the majority of this game for me has been spent out at sea rather than on land. Unrelated, but it was in Havana that I realized the brightness setting was at 5 out of 10, and that was blinding me to no end, so I lowered it down to a 4 out of 10, which only caused a problem when I entered darker areas. So I had to make the choice between blinded by the sun reflecting off of these buildings or not being able to see when I entered in a cave, and I decided that I'd rather keep what's left of my eyesight. Black Flag's story is alright. It's different is what it is, and that's something that I liked because this is a game where the protagonist isn't an assassin early on in the story. Oh, hold on, Kagi. Ezio didn't become an assassin until the end of Assassin's Creed 2. Shut up, I don't care. Edward is a privateer turned pirate who wished for money and respect so he could live a more comfortable life for both him and his wife. Their marriage was already rough as it is, so when Edward went out to sea, his wife was pretty much estranged. The first instance we see of Edward in the game is on a ship called the Jacobin that's caught in a battle in stormy waters. The captain of the Jacobin was killed by this man dressed as an assassin, and the ship then explodes as Edward and the assassin end up shipwrecked on an island called Cape Bonavista. The assassin, known as Duncan Walpole, tells Edward that he'll pay him if he can get him to Havana, and Edward says that he'll take the money up front first. Duncan runs away, Edward chases after him, and the two fight. Edward kills Duncan and steals his clothes and commits identity theft because he found a letter from the governor of Havana inviting the now late Duncan to meet with him and to be paid for a job. Edward's like, oh mate, this is fucking sick. Wait, that's not Welsh. and heads off and finds a merchant ship that he helps and sets off to Havana. When Edward meets with the governor and his associates, he gets unwittingly brought into the Templar Order and is told about the observatory, which will allow a person to see whoever, wherever they are, but to find this place, they need the help of a sage named Bartholomew Roberts. Ooh, mystical. While escorting Roberts, the Templars get jumped on by assassins who are then fought off, and Edward is awarded 1,000 reals, which sounds like a lot, but given this game's economy, doesn't really get us very much, and Edward decides to just find the observatory for himself and sell it off to the highest bidder, but first he needs to get this sage. Sneaking around, he finds where Roberts is imprisoned and ends up finding nothing but dead guards. The governor shows up and reveals to Edward that he is not Duncan and locks him up on a ship to be sent to England. On the ship, Edward and another prisoner break free and they set off to rescue everyone and take the ship for themselves and sail to Nassau. Edward names the ship the Jackdaw and gets named the captain, while the prisoner he was tied with, Adewale, becomes the quartermaster. Landing at Nassau, we witness the birth of the Pirate Republic, and this is where the game begins to open up for us. And it's here where you come to realize what people mean when they say that Black Flag is a good pirate game. What do you need for a good pirate game? Oh come on, it's not that hard. You have to be a pirate, and that means sailing the seas, accosting merchant vessels, and hunting for treasure. You blast some Ailstorm, and you make them walk the plank. A lot of the fun I had was the naval combat. It was very simple, but it was also really satisfying. You feel that force when you fire that cannon, and when it hits the enemy ship, you can't help but think, oh fuck, that felt good. And after you damage their ship enough times, you can then board their ship and swing across for that authentic movie pirate experience of having a fight on deck. Afterwards, you can choose to sink the ship or recruit some men and lower your notoriety. There's also harpooning, which I thought was a bit of fun. I did know that in the past you can hunt the white whale, which I think is an online event, but I don't know if that's even possible to do now, and that kind of upset me because I would have liked to have had the chance to hunt the white whale. Holy grail. If I had more time, I would have 100%ed this game, and if I had Steam achievements, then I would have gone for all of those as well. That's how much I enjoyed my time with this game and its side content, and the more time I have to play it, the more I can spend on the ship, sailing the seas, the wind in my hair, the salt on my lips, and the sound of the crew singing of how much of a cruel and erotic bitch the sea is. The problem, however, is when you return to the main story and find out that most of your quests involve tailing somebody but not assassinating them, eavesdropping on people by staying in a tiny ass circle while also being hidden as they move a lot faster than you. It's not that bad on land because there's some designed parkour routes for you to take, but when you get off of land and start sailing about, you would have to tail a few ships with your ship, and there's not much you can do apart from just keep your distance. The repetitive missions began to feel really draining as time went on, and each time I'm told to tail someone, I just think about how I want to run up and assassinate them, and it just felt so boring. You know what? Let's talk about something else. Let's talk about gay pirates. There was a form of gay marriage among buccaneers known as matelotage. Living life out at sea in the age of piracy carried the risk of dying at sea, and if someone were to die, then who would inherit what treasure that person owned? So pirates formed unions with one another, and two sailors would agree to protect each other's interests and also in battle, but if one should pass, then the other would get their treasure. And while some of these pirate unions were purely financial, some of them were also romantic and or sexual, such as the relationship between two pirates, John Swan and Robert Culliford, where Swan was described as a great consort to Culliford, who also lived with him, which led to speculation of Culliford either being gay or bisexual. The practice of matelotage was so widespread that on the island of Tortuga in 1645, pirates were being really gay with each other, and to try and curb these unions, the French governor of Tortuga at the time, Jean Levasseur, requested a mass import of sex workers to the island. The result, however, was not that it stopped metilotage, but instead these pirates married the sex workers and then began sharing them with their metilotage partners and what were probably some of the sexiest threesomes. So why this brief talk on gay pirates? I believe that at some point in the story, Edward and Adewale should have banged. That's about it. I think Adewale is just really fucking hot and Edward is just missing out. Oh, but on the topic of LGBT pirates, I didn't know about Mary Read before I played this game, so when I saw James Kidd for the first time, I just assumed that James was a trans man and everyone knew it and were just really supportive of this trans king. So when the reveal happened that James Kidd was actually Mary Read, I didn't think it was that much of a twist and that everybody just knew. Before I played this game, I expected Edward to be my second favorite assassin, and I would say that he's pretty close, but not for the reasons I had expected. Edward, to put it nicely, is a greedy piece of shit. He does what he wants so long as it gets him paid and gets him rich, and he will stop at nothing until he has as much wealth and respect as he wants. And through this greed and avarice lies a theme of freedom. Edward's life back in England was, well, frankly, it was shit, and the idea of, if I can be rich, then I can live a comfortable life and a free one not bound by anything is such an enticing idea to have. The freedom the assassins preach is one that does interest Edward, but he doesn't want to follow code or dogma, really only seeming to like the idea that everything is permitted. Throughout Edward's time in the Caribbean, he witnesses the founding of the Pirate Republic of Nassau and its subsequent fall to British rule when turned to them and the Templars by Hornigold, and experiences the loss of his allies and Edward Thatch and Charles Vane, all in his pursuit for the observatory. It reaches the point where his own crew mutinies against him, and it takes him losing everything to realize that unbound freedom is not possible, and that itself must come with some restraints. He even says himself that he is not different with all the riches and reputation that he has gained, and when he looks back on those alongside him, not a man or woman he loves is left standing beside him. And I believe that this is an amazing story, if not for how Assassin's Creed storytelling just ends up ruining things and having it fall flat. If there's one thing I hate about this game's storytelling is how many years or months we skip over. If you were to ask me to pinpoint the moment Edward is gaining character development, I would not be able to help you there. He has a whole moment where he becomes piss drunk and he's hallucinating or dreaming all of this going on, but if you're gonna tell me that this moment here is when it's triggered, then I'm gonna have to ask for a rewrite. Sure, maybe you can point to moments where Charles Vane goes mad or when Blackbeard gets decapitated, and those might be the times when Edward has growth, but it feels like it gets glossed over very quickly. Honestly, I might have just been playing too many RPGs where there are whole quest lines that have character growth. What else do we have to talk about? Oh right, the modern day sections. So with Desmond dead, we need a new modern day protagonist, and now we have a nameless Abstergo Entertainment employee, but I found on the Assassin's Creed wiki, they call them noob. So you're a new hire to work on this new pirate game called Pirates of Nightmares. That better be a working title. And you're given your own animus where you can go and capture footage of Edward Kenway to help develop this game. Every so often, you're brought out of the Edward sections to the office because John from IT has a task for you that involves hacking into computers to get information to send to a few associates in the lobby. These sections are alright, I like them a bit, and you could also log out whenever you want, but there's not really much to do, which is probably why these are so limited. The real horror to these sections is finding out that this all takes place in Montreal, and that this is just meant to be Ubisoft Montreal's fictional office, and we can only hope that we do not get harassed here by any of the higher-ups. We learn that Abstergo has Desmond's body, which is how we're able to get to the memories of Edward, and at some point we are asked to hack into this main server, and what we don't know is that Juno, the Isu from the last game, is in here, and the intention is to have her consciousness jump into our body, but that doesn't happen. Alright, before I finish this section, there's something I have to mention about sages. So a sage is someone who is born with the memories of the Isu Ida, who is married to Juno, and I don't know if these are just reincarnations of Ida, but either way, the sages have these memories, and sometimes these memories and Ida's personality take over, which causes some mental instability for the person. So Bartholomew Roberts, back in the time for Edward Kenway, is a sage, and it's revealed at the end of the game that John from IT is also a sage, sage, and for some reason he shaves his mustache and facial hair to look like Bartholomew Roberts, which I guess is sort of just like, do all sages now have this kind of mustache? Is this just a thing that they want to have? Or is this just a thing to have in the game to make us go like, hey, remember Roberts? Well, this guy here is also a sage, even though Edward pointed out that the main thing was in the eyes where they have heterochromia and not the fact that they style their mustache the same way. So John's upset that Juno didn't jump into your body, and he now wants to kill you, I think, and then later Abstergo has their militia show up and they shoot John, and John's just really fine with dying, which doesn't make sense as well because Bartholomew Roberts even tells Edward to burn his body, so he doesn't want the Templars to get that body, but now John from IT, who already seems to have like Ida's personality, now thinks, I don't care, just shoot me or something. And I think this is kind of the first instance where Assassin's Creed storytelling is starting to shit the bed. I don't know if this is exactly that moment, but we'll revisit this in later videos to see if this was the moment everything kind of just started to go downhill with storytelling, because I just don't like this. It's just not good. It's not good. The game properly ends when Edward meets his daughter that he didn't know he had with his now late wife as he sails back to England with her, and that's the end of Black Flag. If the game had more varied main mission objectives, then I believe we could have had a game that had both great side content and fun main content, but the repetition of mission objectives help bring this game down in terms of where I'd rank it compared to the others, but I'll hold off on a proper ranking of this series until much later. That being said, this is a fun game, but it's just weird that the main parts of the game are so mediocre that all of the side content of the game is the actual fun part. And it's also kind of funny that the timing of this video is after Skull and Bones came out, and I honestly hope that that's a good pirate game because Black Flag itself is a good pirate game. They have the framework right here, they have the skeleton, they just need to flesh it out. And I think that's what Black Flag is going to be remembered as, being a pirate rather than being an assassin. Also, I just want to get through the rest of the series before Ubisoft says some more dumb shit. Hey everyone, I want to say thank you for watching the video. We're going through the rest of the series, and next time we'll be looking at Freedom Cry, which is DLC for Black Flag, but because it's a different assassin, it's going to be a different video. I don't know if Skull and Bones is any good, and I don't really want to play it, so I'll just pretend that it's not good regardless. That being said, if you did like the video, then please leave a like. If you didn't like the video, then leave a dislike. And if you want to see more, there should be other videos on screen right now, and a playlist for the other Assassin's Creed videos that I've done so far. If you want to see me look at more games in the future for Assassin's Creed or otherwise, then feel free to subscribe, and remember that I appreciate you.